Welcome back to The Pledge. Hopefully this won't be too much of a shock to most of you. War is a bloody, ugly business in every sense of the word. We ask enormously brave men and women to go into combat and put their lives on the line, regardless of whether they agree with the decision or not. If they're fortunate enough to return with their limbs and their sanity, how do we treat them? Well, as criminals to be pursued with the sort of vigour usually reserved for a tabloid journalist with a copy of the A to Z of hacking in his back pocket. The Prime Minister quite rightly signalled an end to that grotesque witch hunt this week. No one would defend not going after soldiers who have behaved illegally. But let us no longer listen too naively to the bleating of bleeding heart liberals, whose only experience of conflict is whether to have soya or almond milk in their triple skinny latte, or to the ill-founded allegations of would-be Taliban bombers.
Nick, if this is simply the bleating of bleeding heart liberals, then why has the Ministry of Defence paid out £20 million in over 300 cases where soldiers have been found to have been carrying out abuses on the battlefield? Or do you think that once we're in war, there should be
But you know those cases have been without prejudice, so they would, rather than defend it, they have made the payments.
And
because
so
it will not be an acceptance
you're
of
in a
guilt
position to be
time.
able to say that that was an unfair witch hunt of those soldiers who are actually innocent?
No, if I refer you to my earlier words, where someone has behaved illegally, of course it has to be pursued.
How do you determine whether someone's behaved illegally or not if you don't have a legal process?
Because we go the same way as the derogation that is enjoyed by France and the Czech Republic, which is that the Human Rights Act cannot apply in the battlefield. It is patently ridiculous. You have a situation currently, which the Prime Minister is addressing, that if, for the purpose of debate, Osama bin Laden was in the target of a sniper, and this is true, if he is unarmed, he's not allowed to take him out to shoot him dead. He's not allowed to, unless he picks up a gun and threatens it. That is like sending our men and women to war with one hand tied behind their back, and it is wrong, and it is unjust, and it has stopped, and that is right.
I can understand why that's an appealing idea, and it's something that the press have been absolutely fanning the flames all week. They've been fed by the government, who have their own interest in stopping the extraterritorial application of the Human Rights Act. But there's two things I want to say, two really important things. One, the whole reason we fight these wars is because there are values that we supposedly adhere to as a nation, right? Yes. One is not carrying out gratuitous killing and torture, other things that our soldiers have in the past been proved to have done. Baha Musa. There are so many cases, Ahmed Ali, where we found it's been proved in a court of law that our troops have carried out something like that. And the second thing is, just quickly,
the Human Rights Act, every name you bring, I can bring another one.
The same application of the Human Rights Act in war has protected our troops when our government has failed them. And
what the hell are you talking about? You think the Taliban play by the Human Rights Act?
I'm not talking about the Taliban. I'm talking about soldiers like Jason Smith, who died of heat stroke in Iraq because the government failed to equip him. It's not different because it was the Human Rights Act that allowed his family to demand an inquest to show why he had been failed by the
Guardsman, and I want to get this man was brave enough to go to battle, so I'm looking at some Guardsman Martin McGing, who was 19. He was ordered to restrain looters in Basra in Iraq. Somebody ran away, jumped into a canal, and subsequently drowned. He spent 3 years on trial for manslaughter. He was a 19-year-old. This guy ran away. How can that be right? How can you support that? You keep giving me names, I give you that card.
What about 15-year-old Ahmed Ali, who was thrown into a canal and watched drown by our troops, which the court said was completely unnecessary and a violation of his right.
It does appear that there have been some legal firms who have been acting almost as ambulance chasers.
We all know when we speak.
And it's clearly that was wrong. I mean, the idea, and there are some suspicious events around what they did, but there's obviously, I mean, you can't have it both ways.
What do you mean?
Well, first of all, you're saying, well, when there is a real case, it needs to be chased. It needs to be prosecuted.
Yeah. But then there's the Geneva Convention.
How do you...
Like the guy who said, shuffle off the mortal coil. He said, I've just broken the Geneva Convention.
Far better, of course, would be not to have invaded Iraq in the first place, wouldn't it? Because then we wouldn't have this problem. I mean, we should stop going... I mean, we're not very good at going to war, really. I mean, we should start, you know...
But this is a cost of going to war. When you decide to mount an illegal invasion, this is one of the costs that you have to factor in. It is, if they're found to have been...
Some of these guys, and women actually, are highly honoured and decorated. They're being arrested at dawn as if they're some
journalists.
journalists.
The vast majority of our troops are not being pursued in the courts. The vast majority of them are behaving decently and honourably. But the point is that if we don't hold the few that don't to account, we're sending a signal that we as a nation are willing to tolerate people wearing our uniform who go out and abuse people. And if a minority do that, they have to be held to account.
Can I just come in, please? If I think about the role of a soldier, if I just strip it right back to basics, their role is to protect lives. It's to protect the lives of themselves and the lives of others. That's primarily their role. Yeah,
Interesting.
I think they have to protect lives. They're not there to just randomly go around killing everybody. Yes, but to me, they're going out. They're going to have split-second decisions, literally split seconds. None of us are trained to understand what that is like. And you're in this battle scenario. They've got their training. They've got their discipline. They have to protect the lives of their troops, or they have to make a split-second decision.
Yes.
If you add into the mix the fact that whatever you decide to do right in that split second, there's a chance that when you get home and you're settled into your life once again, you're going to be pursued in the court. You're going to affect those split-second decisions, and I think that is wrong. And that doesn't mean that I want soldiers running amok, doing whatever they want, because to Rachel's point, you have the Geneva Convention, you have, laws in all various different countries, you have criminal laws and all the rest of it. But I just think that adding this extra layer of this Human Rights Convention on is adding this pressure which will affect the split-second decisions of soldiers, and I think it's wrong, and for that reason I agree with you.
And we're following of other European... One sentence, such as Portugal, Spain, France, the Czech Republic, all have this derogation, and that's why I'm saying it is right.
I don't think it's optional. War is
Can I just tell you
thing.
something that's happened since we have become part of the ECHR, where you can sue soldiers for actions on the battlefield. They don't have automatic combat immunity, which is we've had lawyers going into places we have been in, like Iraq or Afghanistan, not just, and going into villages and saying, have you had any bad experiences with British troops? And then some of the soldiers are even being prosecuted because some of the villagers said, yes, they were disrespectful, they were rude. It wasn't even as bad as, killing somebody. I'm afraid I heard
the legal system
from somebody,
was
from
that
a
simple,
former
not because of those cases.
Defence Minister.
The point is, there are safeguards within our legal system. You can't just march into the High Court and demand a judicial review. You have to get permission. It's so hard to get permission to even bring a case to court that only, I think
there have been 5,827 claims since 2012.
How many convictions?
Overall,
handful of convictions. Now, I know you're going to say they're binding. I know what you're going to say. I know what you're going to say.
The point is, none of us know. I can tell you as a fact that the vast majority of cases that are brought never make it to trial. Judges throw them out. So the idea, if lawyers want to go to war zones and ask people, that's their risk. The majority of them will never get anywhere, and they'll lose.
This guardsman was accused of manslaughter.
It's not that easy.
This guardsman was accused of manslaughter because the bloke ran away and jumped in the canal and drowned.
I've just told you 3 cases where it was proved that our troops tortured or abused people in violation of their rights.
You rely on your research on the Daily Mail.
Got a problem with the Daily Mail.
They've never knowingly let the facts stand in the way of the prejudice.
Hold on,
this is written by Colonel Richard. This article was written by Colonel Richard Kemp, who commanded British forces in Afghanistan and Iraq. It's better you know. It's interesting you know better than Colonel Kemp.
Well, Colonel Kemp is going to defend his people, as he would.
He's no longer in the military, so, you think he's lying?
I don't think he's lying, but I think there are more facts about that particular case that I've read.
It's clear that for every case you've got, there's a counter case. There are cases where soldiers have been taken to court and they've been acquitted. The case has failed. There have been cases where they've been found to have committed abuses. It's so important. I think it's an existential issue for our nation that we hold ourselves to account. If we do commit those kind of atrocities... This isn't France, this is Britain. We helped draft the Human Rights Act. We helped draft the European Convention on Human Rights after the Second World War because we said a world in which there are not strict human rights standards everywhere is a world where the Holocaust can happen. We need to prevent that from happening again. And we've all forgotten that. We've all forgotten that. And now we're saying that it's inconvenient. Let's just put our principles aside. Have you ever been on a battlefield?
Yes, I have. I've been in Belfast. Have you ever been on a battlefield?
I've been in a war zone. Yes, I have.
Okay, so
in Northern
you think
Mali.
You can play by those rules, do you?
I think that the rules exist for a reason. I'm not saying war isn't horrible, it brutalises people. Do you know 5% of all criminal cases in this country are soldiers who've come back from war, and for whatever reason, whether it's post-traumatic stress, whether it's the violence that's been inculcated in them, they are committing offences. It's not easy to reintegrate back into normal civilian life. I don't think that is a reason to just put the law to the side.
It's me next.